Welcome back to 10-Minute Prophecy, where we go through the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation in bite-sized chunks. We hope that this journey through Bible prophecy has been enlightening, whether you are new to prophecy or have studied prophecy in the past. As always, if you haven't seen the previous presentations, please watch them as each prophecy builds on each other. We are going to continue on Daniel 11. We hope that you are excited to continue on this journey and see how God predicted the world events precisely and accurately. Like we said previously, this prophecy has very few symbolism and can be titled the literal prophecy because of this. There is a lot of history in this chapter, and this prophecy is a deep dive into it. So, last time we left off at verse 17 and will now continue on in verse 18 and 19. We encourage you to read the verses with your Bible. Now we will continue on with the King of the North, which is now identified as the Roman Empire, as it conquered the previous King of the North, which was Antiochus. This section predicts the Caesars, their rise and fall. The Bible will show us precisely how each Caesar came to power and how they died. Verse 18 and 19 start off with, "After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found." The Bible shows that Julius Caesar was eventually drawn away from Egypt by a war with Pharnaces, the king of the Cimmerian Bosporus. According to historian Prideaux, when Caesar arrived, he wasted no time and quickly attacked, achieving a decisive victory. He famously summed up the battle in a letter to a friend with the words, "Veni, vidi, vici, I came, I saw, I conquered." After this conquest, Caesar defeated the last remnants of Pompey's forces, including Cato and Scipio in Africa, and Labienus and Varus in Spain. Upon returning to Rome, his stronghold, he was made dictator for life. With this title came absolute power over the entire empire. However, as the prophecy predicted, his downfall would be sudden and unexpected at the height of his power. Despite having fought and won 500 battles, conquered 1,000 cities and killed over 1,000,000 men, Caesar didn't fall in battle. Instead, he met his end when he felt most secure, believing danger to be far away. As he sat on his golden throne in the Senate, ready to receive the title of king, treachery struck. Cassius, Brutus, and other conspirators attacked him, and Caesar fell, stabbed 23 times. Thus, in 44 BC, he suddenly stumbled and fell, just as foretold here in Daniel 11. Verse 20 states, "Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle." Here, after Caesar's sudden death, the Bible shows that the next Caesar to be a raiser of taxes. Who was this? In history, we find that Augustus Caesar succeeded his uncle Julius Caesar, who had adopted him as his heir. After publicly announcing his adoption and taking the name Octavianus, he joined forces with Mark Antony and Lepidus to avenge Julius Caesar's death. This alliance formed the triumvirate, a shared rule. Eventually, Augustus consolidated his power, and after the deaths of the other two, he became the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. The Senate then gave him the title Augustus. Augustus was well known for raising taxes. The Bible even references him in Luke 2:1, where it says, "In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world." This tax decree, which affected everyone, earned Augustus the reputation of being the greatest tax collector in Roman history. During his reign, Rome reached its peak in terms of power and prosperity, giving rise to the term the Augustan Age, which is still used to describe the golden era of Roman history. Peace was widespread, justice was upheld, luxury was tempered, discipline was enforced, and learning was encouraged. Augustus even closed the Temple of Janus, which signified that the empire was at peace, something that had only happened twice before in Rome's history. It was during this time that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Augustus died peacefully in AD 14 at the age of 76 in the town of Nola, where he had gone to rest and recover his health. Verse 21, "And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honour of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries." The next Caesar prophesied fits the characteristics perfectly mentioned. After Augustus Caesar, Tiberius Caesar took the Roman throne. At 28, he became a consul. When Augustus was choosing his successor, his wife Livia urged him to choose Tiberius, her son, from a previous marriage. However, Augustus refused, saying, "Your son is too vile to rule Rome," and initially chose Agrippa, a respected Roman. But Agrippa died, forcing Augustus to choose again. Livia persisted, and as Augustus grew older and weaker, he eventually agreed to name Tiberius as his co-ruler and successor. Despite this, Tiberius never earned the love or respect of the Roman people that a ruler normally received. This lack of respect fulfilled a prophecy that Tiberius would not be honored as a rightful king, but would come to power through flattery and deceit. According to the Encyclopedia Americana, Tiberius acted prudently during Augustus's reign, even leading successful campaigns in Germany. When Augustus died, Tiberius smoothly took control of the empire, pretending to decline power until the Senate insisted. The prophecy called Tiberius a vile person, and history confirms this. According to Tacitus, Tiberius's reign was marked by suspicion, tyranny, and cruelty. He allowed Sejanus, a corrupt official, to run rampant until Sejanus aimed to take over the empire himself. Tiberius, using deceit, showered Sejanus with honors before secretly plotting his downfall. Sejanus was executed, but many innocent people also died due to Tiberius's growing paranoia. In his later years, Tiberius withdrew to the island of Capri, indulging in debauchery and cruelty. His reign became a grim mix of oppression and fear. Tacitus describes him as a man tortured by his own misery, writing to the Senate, "I don't know what to write or why I write at all. The gods punish me daily more than I can bear." Seneca remarked that Tiberius was in a constant state of intoxication from the moment he started drinking until his death. Tiberius embodied tyranny, hypocrisy, and corruption, fulfilling the prophecy that he would be a vile ruler. Verse 22 states, "And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant." Until the end, Tiberius maintained his deceit, hiding his growing weakness and even pretending to join in the soldiers' exercises. Eventually, he left his island, known for his extreme debauchery, and stopped at a country house near the promontory of Misenum. On March 16, 37 AD, he fell into a coma and appeared to be dead. Caligula, ready to take over the empire, was shocked when Tiberius suddenly regained consciousness. At that moment, Macro, the head of the Praetorian Guard, ordered Tiberius to be suffocated with pillows. Thus, Tiberius died at 78 after ruling for 23 years, hated by all. The Prince of the Covenant clearly refers to Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Prince, who was to confirm the covenant for 1 week with his people, as prophesied in Daniel chapter 9, verses 25 to 27. After recounting Tiberius's death, the prophecy notes an even more significant event during his reign, the death of Jesus Christ. According to Luke chapter 3, verses 1 to 3, John the Baptist began his ministry in the 15th year of Tiberius's reign. Historians like Prideaux and Lardner calculate that Tiberius's reign started when he became co-ruler with Augustus in August AD 12. So his 15th year would be from August AD 26 to August AD 27. Since Jesus was about 6 months younger than John, he likely began his ministry in the autumn of AD 27 when he was baptized. This marks the fulfillment of the 483 years prophesied to the appearance of the Messiah. From AD 27, Jesus' ministry lasted 3.5 years. He attended 4 Passovers, with his crucifixion occurring at the last one, in the spring of AD 31. Tiberius died 6 years later, in AD 37. Now verse 23 states, "And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. So now the Bible pauses the secular history and switches to events that will connect with God's people. The hymn mentioned in this passage refers to the same power described from verse 14 onward, which is the Roman Empire. Let's review the evidence. When we sum up the prophecy from verse 19 till now, we find that the prophecy aligns with three key Roman rulers: Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, and Tiberius Caesar. Julius, after his triumphant return to Rome, stumbled and fell, disappearing from power, as noted in verse 19. Augustus, a great tax collector, ruled during the height of Rome's glory, dying peacefully in his bed without conflict, as mentioned in verse 20. Tiberius, known for his deceit and vile nature, took the throne without resistance but met a violent end. During Tiberius' reign, Jesus of Nazareth, the Prince of the Covenant, was crucified, as detailed in verses 21 and 22. Since Christ cannot be broken or killed again, no other government or time period fits this prophecy. Some argue that these verses refer to Antiochus and one of the Jewish high priests as the Prince of the Covenant, but high priests are never given that title. This line of thinking, similar to the claim that Antiochus fulfills the little horn prophecy in Daniel chapter 8, is meant to disrupt the clear evidence supporting the doctrine of Christ's second coming. However, the biblical and historical evidence is clear and remains unshakable, and the chain of prophecy unbroken, that the prophecy is not referring to Antiochus and some Jewish priest. The prophet, after detailing the empire's history up to the end of the 70 weeks, takes us back in verse 23 to when the Romans first became directly involved with the Jewish people through the Jewish-Roman alliance in 161 BC. From this point, the prophecy traces events leading to the ultimate triumph of the Church and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. At that time, the Jews were being severely oppressed by the Syrian kings, so they sent envoys to Rome seeking help and proposing a formal alliance. This is recorded in 1 Maccabees chapter 8, as well as by historians Prideaux and Josephus in Antiquities Book 12, chapter 10, section 6. The Romans agreed to the Jewish request, issuing the following decree. The decree of the Senate concerning a league of assistance and friendship with the Jewish nation. It shall not be lawful for any under Roman rule to make war against the Jews or assist those who do, whether by sending grain, ships, or money. If the Jews are attacked, the Romans will help them as much as they can. Likewise, if the Romans are attacked, the Jews will assist them. Any changes to this alliance must be made with mutual consent, and such changes will be binding. Josephus adds that this decree was written by Eupolemus and Jason during the time when Judas was high priest and his brother Simon led the army. This marked the first formal alliance between the Romans and the Jews. At this time, Rome was still a relatively small power, but they used cunning strategies, slowly rising in strength and influence until they eventually became a dominant force in the world. Verse 24 states, "He shall enter peacefully even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time." In earlier times, nations typically expanded their territories through war and conquest. However, Rome took a different approach that hadn't been done before. Instead of fighting for land, they began to receive entire kingdoms peacefully, through legacies left by kings. As a result, Rome gained control over large provinces without the need for war. Those who came under Roman rule benefited greatly. They were treated with kindness and fairness, as if the wealth and resources of the empire were being shared with them. They were protected from enemies and enjoyed peace and safety under the powerful Roman government. The phrase, "forecasting devices from strongholds," refers to Rome planning its strategies from the fortified city of Rome itself. The phrase, "even for a time," refers to a prophetic period of 360 years. In ancient Israel, a year was sometimes mentioned as time. And this is evident in Daniel chapter 4 and verse 23, prophesying that Nebuchadnezzar would be like an animal for 7 times or 7 years, which is what happened. Verse 25 states, "And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army, and the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Verses 23 and 24 take us from the time of the Jewish-Roman alliance in 161 BC to when Rome had gained universal power. Verse 25 focuses on a major conflict against the king of the south, which is Egypt, and a significant battle between massive armies. This event did occur in Roman history and is known as the Battle of Actium. This was part of the Greater War between Rome and Egypt. Mark Antony, Augustus Caesar, and Lepidus formed the triumvirate, united in their mission to avenge Julius Caesar's assassination. Antony married Augustus's sister Octavia, but while on official business in Egypt, he fell for Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. His obsession with her led him to abandon Octavia, give away Roman territories to Cleopatra, and even hold a triumph in Alexandria instead of Rome. These actions angered the Roman people, making it easy for Augustus to rally support for war against Antony, who had essentially become an Egyptian leader. Though the war was framed as being against Egypt and Cleopatra, it was actually a fight for control of the Roman Empire between Augustus and Antony. After Lepidus was removed from the triumvirate, the empire was left to these two, and both were determined to claim everything. Antony gathered a massive fleet of 500 warships carrying 200,000 foot soldiers and 12,000 cavalry. Cleopatra's luxurious ship, adorned with purple sails and gold, followed closely behind Antony's, and she boasted of Roman defeat before the battle had even begun. On the other hand, Augustus's fleet was smaller but more effective, consisting of 250 ships and 80,000 skilled soldiers and sailors. Unlike Antony, who had to fill his ships with untrained workers, Augustus's forces were highly experienced. The two fleets met in the Ambracian Gulf in Epirus. Antony's generals advised him to avoid a naval battle due to his inexperienced crew and instead send Cleopatra back to Egypt and fight on land with his veteran soldiers. But Antony, blinded by his infatuation with Cleopatra, followed her advice to engage in a naval battle. The battle took place on September 2nd, 31 BC, and was fiercely contested. However, Cleopatra fled the battlefield prematurely, taking the Egyptian fleet with her. Antony, consumed by his passion for her, followed, handing victory to Augustus. This battle marks the start of the time mentioned in verse 24. The phrase suggests that during this period, Rome would forecast its plans from its stronghold. A prophetic time of 360 years from the Battle of Actium in 31 BC brings us to 330 AD, the year when Constantine the Great moved the capital from Rome to Constantinople, marking a significant shift in the Roman Empire's power. This concludes our time together. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this nugget of prophecy. Join us next time as we continue in Daniel chapter 11 with the fall of the Roman Empire and the rise of the papacy. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you again soon.